We're going to start.
It's really late.
Thank you, Franklin. And there's nobody in Buffalo, I guess.
No, they're going to shut down shortly.
Yeah, she said that if someone didn't show up.
Okay, we have our quorum. I'm grateful that we do. And I don't think that there's a need for introductions this week because everybody knows each other from a couple of weeks ago.
Can Franklin hear you?
Franklin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Camille just completed something that you got recently via email, the services rendered by the committee. And you know, we put this at the end of the report, but from my perspective, in a lot of ways, it's pretty significant because it tells the world what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. And the reality is that Camille and I have been finding that there are just not enough hours in the day to do what we'd like to do what we need to do. We are constantly on the move. You see that we did 89 presentations this year around the state. I'll be doing another one tonight in Syracuse. It never ends, and actually that's a great thing. I think it's terrific that people want to know, people want to be trained, people want to be educated, and they come really from every sector of society. I mentioned to Nina just a moment ago, as things have evolved, at least in terms of the way I see my role, I think I've become more of an educator than anything else over the course of years. And I find that to be enjoyable and rewarding and fun. And some of you have been to our presentations. I also like to be entertaining. Yes, yes. I just got the thumbs up from Franklin. And you can, yeah, go ahead,
add
Camille.
one more piece to that, the services rendered piece. I did count up this morning, so I've got a rough estimate of our advisory opinions. It looks like we wrote 141 this year with 87 FOIL and 53 OML, one personal privacy protection law opinion. This is significantly fewer advisory opinions than we've ever written, and it has to do with the fact that we started two things. We have conscientiously started to whittle down the number of advisory opinions that we write because they are so time consuming and because we have so many of them that are repetitive. So we're really working hard at using the advisory opinions that we already have for people who need assistance. And the second factor is that we're now spending a lot more time giving information very informally via email, and it's still legal advice, but it's not as formal as the written advisory opinion. So that number has significantly decreased. Last year we recorded 400 advisory opinions, and this year we're at 141. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention. It's a rough estimate. Our database people, well, retired and got another job, and so we're still working out the kinks on how to get these reports up again, but we'll get there, and we'll have the actual numbers for the report on the 15th.
You know, and associated with that is the reality. I love that Wendy is here, and Wendy has been tremendously helpful to us, but we don't have support staff. And the consequence is that we can't generate the opinions the way we used to. And as Camille suggested, we have thousands available online. In so many instances, we can just attach an existing opinion to an email and assist so quickly and easily. But you see that we have 800 and email. Who doesn't believe that email is either a blessing or a curse or both? We do an awful lot via email these days, and often they are, again, the quick, informal responses that people are grateful for. I think that people are happy to get the quick responses so that they can move on. They can resolve a problem or a question or an issue. And you know, that's really what we do. And you can see from the phone calls we're still getting about 5,000 phone inquiries per year. There are days when we're on the phone almost all the time. Thank you. Welcome again. And I have. While you're arranging, I have felt that picking up the phone is the best thing that we do, because nobody ever calls to chat. People only call when they have a question or a problem. And if we can solve the problem, I call it.
Here. Jennifer McCann. Yes, I spoke to them. Sorry.
Good morning. As I was saying, if we can solve the problem quickly and easily by phone or via the quick email response, I think that we're providing a valuable service, and I would hope that you agree. Anybody have any thoughts or questions about that? Because we have sort of shifted the focus of what we do.
Keep up the good work.
It's hard
Thank
to
you.
do. Most people really resist not getting not getting an opinion that's tailored to their municipality feedback. So it's hard to dissuade people from wanting the advisory opinion, but the email's working. Seems to be working.
You know, one other development that I think is pretty significant that doesn't really show up here. Camille and I have both done training via webinars, and the truth is, often we have no idea how many people are tuned in at a particular time. They're all saved, and we have no idea after the fact how many people take advantage. So the numbers that you see are probably low. Both of us have done webinars for associations of one sort or another, and they're people like them. I did a program for the Bar Association, the CLE program, that was webcast at the same time, and I was walking back from the Bar Association, and a guy stopped me in the street and he said, "Oh, good job," or something like that. So there are more people who partake than we know necessarily. Thank you. Thank you all. Now I guess we should move on. We should move on to consideration of the minutes of the last meeting. And
We need to make that correction.
Changes, yeah. Yep.
there were a couple of suggestions for alterations. I don't know if anybody has an objection. I don't.
I kind of had a blank in mind.
That paper I gave you.
The other-
That's what you gave me. I don't need that. That's for your committee meeting. I'm just here for.
Yeah, the question was who.
Okay.
Oh, so you all got Bill's notes about the changes to the minutes. That seems fine to me, or you can add what you want. Wendy and I have been refraining from putting member names in the minutes because they seem to get taken out later, and so we've been trying to accommodate that. I'm happy.
This is the commission.
They're your minutes. I'm not trying to control what your minutes have.
It was presented as the majority
Well,
opinion
you
of
want.
the committee, and I
Well,
know
that's how I was
somebody
trying to
said
figure out who you were and what was going on.
Yeah, in either
I
case.
said my part, and then there's a blank at
Schultz
the end.
said.
Oh,
Schultz said the other part.
then that's,
This is an open government, so it is open to the public. That's why when you came in, I thought,
well,
okay.
it should be
There
attributable
are many
to
member
their
people there.
opinions as to the committee's function.
Sorry.
I think
Great.
that's fair.
Let's put the name in. So it was Schultz. Where is it? No, I don't have it. Can I just?
You want this one? Okay.
So
The online section
It
that
doesn't matter, I have it.
that I had, or
Okay.
the online reading from the New York State government didn't have .6 listed. And so I don't know how new it is or how old the one is that's there.
so what?
The officer's law.
I think
Yeah. You reference.
it comes
Right.
up when I went to the assembly sites.
Well, this is only the New York State government, not the assembly site.
Changed since its inception.
It hasn't been changed in 1,000 years.
Then is it 6 or 5 or? At any rate, you're welcome to.
It's
You're welcome to have that or take a look at it or say that I copied the wrong. Let me know that I copied the wrong. But if there's one out there that doesn't have an accurate representation of the law,
89
somebody
would
ought to.
be.
So what are we doing with the minutes?
Yeah,
I
what do you
actually
wanna
have
do?
can
two
move on.
changes too. I have
Move on.
two small changes that I don't think got incorporated into this version. is to the first motion that was made. It was actually Bill who seconded it, so that should be changed. And then the second motion, I made the motion, that's accurate, but again, we had Bill seconding the motion, so just to make them,
Yes.
complete.
Got it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Now, let's move on to the substance, and
Do we have to approve them
This is missing them.
as amended?
any
Any
objection to the minutes as
amended?
as amended, as recommended by Amy and Bill? Okay. Consider them to be approved.
The right one.
Move on, and as you all know, David Schultz unfortunately cannot be here, but he went, in my opinion, above and beyond the call of duty. He read the whole report and made what I thought were a series of constructive suggestions. Rather than, again, because we don't really have any support staff, rather than retyping all of it, the handwritten notations and his revision, and it's not a huge revision, of the discussion of Section 50A of the Civil Rights Law was sent to you. And, I think that his suggestions were well made and well taken. I know that Franklin has been an expert regarding 50A for a long time. What are your thoughts regarding Dave's suggestions?
I liked all of his suggestions. I thought, are we talking about the report or the 50A
Both.
section?
Both.
With the report, stop me if this isn't what you're looking for right now. The very first paragraph of the report, I think we ought to include a reference to the increased efficiency and the cost savings that are generated by electronic disclosure by push disclosures. We discuss it in the body of the report, but it's so important that I thought we ought to, and I'm afraid I don't have suggested language. I could certainly come up with something.
So you're talking about an addition, let's say in the second sentence of that first paragraph?
The paragraph that begins, technology has moved our culture.
Yeah.
I thought everything that was there was fine, but down below we talk about the cost savings and efficiency, and I just think we ought to hit on, mention those in our first paragraph.
Certainly we can add a sentence there that reflects that.
Or it could be in the second paragraph, but somewhere right up front, because to me that's one of the huge benefits to governmental agencies themselves for making their information public in a push fashion.
Sounds good.
The rest of the changes I thought were very helpful, mostly just clarifying.
Yeah.
And I liked his moving the paragraphs around.
I had a small suggestion for a change in the 50A stuff.
And the 50A stuff?
Dave's version or
Yeah,
or-
Dave. I thought we were just going off
Yeah,
his
let's go
version.
up Dave's version. Great.
In the very last paragraph, it starts off members of the committee. Third line down at the end, all of the members agree that 50A of the Civil Rights Law, it says warrants serious reconsideration. I would propose to change warrants serious to is ripe for reconsideration. Does that sound
I would
okay?
support that.
That's okay, and then the
Is
next
ripe for serious or is ripe for?
is ripe for, not serious.
Okay.
Well, any reconsideration ought to be serious.
I agree with you.
By definition.
Proposing to strike those paragraphs?
Yeah, because they're being,
He's moving them up front.
Yes. They're paragraphs he replaced, essentially, the discussion of 50A. So this is what we're looking at.
Oh, so he moved that,
Yeah.
those there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of it is more or less the same as what I had suggested.
And I had one more suggested change in the next sentence, the one that starts "that law does," if we could preface that with "as it is currently interpreted by the courts."
Yes,
Great suggestion.
yes, very good suggestion.
As it is currently interpreted by the courts.
Where was that?
The last paragraph of the 50A discussion.
Okay.
That law. Okay, that's terrific.
We're done with that section. I have one more section. I just had a couple of slight wrinkles.
In 50A or
No, the ancillary.
ancillary? Yeah, so,
Section 3.
so then there are no, people again, the members find that Dave's suggestions with Bill's, a couple of suggestions are acceptable? No objection?
Nope.
Good. Good. Okay, on the ancillary matters,
Right.
Go ahead.
Where are you?
Section 3.
Oh, I see, section
ancillary
3.
matters. I was just hoping we could tone down the language a little. Instead of titling it judicial misinterpretation, if we could say questionable judicial interpretation.
I think it's just absolute misinterpretation. It's absolutely wrong.
I'm not sure everybody agrees with that, but
Oh, the
in any
time
case, I
limit?
think just in terms of professional courtesy, there's another section in the report where we question the decision, and
Well,
it's not this harsh.
If you're concerned about that, how about just taking out judicial and call it misinterpretation of FOIL?
I think questionable is where I'm going more than taking out the judicial. It's misinterpretation. It kind of indicates that we're the only ones who know how to interpret the law. And although we are the Committee on Open Government, I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah, but here you have a section, this appellate division decision where they cited a wrong provision. I mean, it was absolutely wrong.
Works for themselves. We don't have to characterize it. Attack the first part or the third part.
I don't think it's questionable. I don't care. I mean, we're focusing on these couple of decisions where the courts have gone astray.
If you want to get that, why don't you say judicial interpretation of FOIL? Because the misinterpretation is evident inside.
I'd rather say questionable interpretation. That's the way we're going.
That's good. Then there's just a couple of other things to follow from that.
Does anybody how do you like questionable interpretation?
Questionable. Is that it? Questionable interpretation?
Questionable judicial interpretation.
Judicial interpretation.
Of FOIL.
Okay, questionable judicial interpretation.
And then in the first sentence, near the end, instead strike troubling. And judicial decisions
I lost you. The first under 3, the first sentence, yeah.
Yeah, we call to the attention of the governor and the legislature, strike troubling, then judicial decisions that, and then insert we believe.
So what would you say? We call to the attention of the governor and the legislature judicial decisions that we believe.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Judicial decisions that we believe.
Well, what the we believe is implicit
Yeah.
in our report.
That have misconstrued certain aspects of FOIL.
I mean,
I think that's fair.
I like it.
I think we
Certainly.
believe is okay because the courts obviously believed something else.
You mean okay in what? Implied or okay ought to be in there?
I think we believe should be there. Do you?
Well, I'm happy. I'm content with the understatement of removing troubling. I didn't think that we believe was necessary.
Okay, fine.
I'm okay with leaving the we believe out. That's the least
Okay.
important thing.
Okay.
In other words, you're calling it misconstrued.
Yes.
Yeah, and it can be troubling to you, and you not have to say it. It should also be troubling to somebody else, but they should make that judgment themselves.
God, you got an A in logic, didn't you? I had to take it too, and it wasn't my strong suit.
So you're not going to like my "we believe" in the next case either, then? I take it.
Where's that?
In the very last sentence, so under the statute of limitations one, where it says "ensure the court misapplied 89.5." I was hoping to insert "ensure we believe the court misapplied 89.5."
I think that that's crystal clear because we know that 89.5 only applies to state agencies, and this applied to a local government. The court simply blew it.
Yeah, again, it's just
But
a courtesy.
diplomacy was not my strong suit either.
I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable addition.
It's too late. What, the "we believe" there?
Sure.
I don't care.
There we go.
In short, we believe the court misapplied. They'll get the message either way, and that's what we really want to do.
My 2 cents.
All right. Other comments regarding this report?
Bill forwarded some legislative history for me about the exception regarding trade secrets that I'm going to plug into that paragraph wherever it's going to land in the report. I appreciate that information, but it'll have bill reference numbers. You'll see that in the final report.
Also, Dave suggested that the ancillary matters be shifted toward the end of the report as a separate section following the legislative proposals.
That gives it weight.
Yeah, I think that was a positive suggestion as well.
Well, it also gives it a further out in the outline, a larger headline in the outline.
Right, and he suggested a separate Roman numeral for
Yes.
the international contributions.
Yes.
By the way, we should point out that, for what it's worth, Camille and I meet with groups from abroad frequently through either the International Center for the Capital Region, which is a group that visits through grants from the U.S. State Department. But even more frequently, we've established a wonderful relationship with the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. And I am asked every year to meet with the Humphrey Fellows, a group of really not only well-educated, but successful people in their own countries who are looking to gain experience regarding the government in the United States. They're stars. And in addition to that, there is a professor, a Chinese woman, who brings in groups from, there are two kinds of groups, either master's degree candidates from a university in China, typically it's Fudan University in Shanghai, as well as mid-level government officials from various cities in China. And we've met with them probably 3 or 4 times this year, and they are absolutely the spice of life. So I like to think that we're making at least a little bit of a contribution in the thinking abroad. And I'm in contact often with a scholar in China who was working on the development of FOI laws there.
Wow.
Those connections have been made primarily through the visits from academics, if you will, from China. And I love that. And Steve and I and Camille were talking about culture versus society before everybody arrived, and that is a critical issue when you communicate with the Chinese about freedom of information. There are certain norms that all of us recognize. We don't kill each other, but in terms of the culture, no, the Chinese, generally speaking, don't challenge their government the way we do here. And that's a critical issue when it comes to the implementation of a freedom of information law. And I don't know if any of you read the article that I sent you called Breathing Life into Freedom of Information Laws that was presented in Washington earlier this year. There are some suggestions that might fit some nations, depending upon their cultures, but there are others which simply do not. But in any case, it's tremendously interesting, and I learn more from them than they learn from me.
I'm interested to know sometime after the meeting and in the weeks, you said some do not. I'm interested to know what do not and why.
Some of the suggestions?
No, you said that some of, if I interpreted what you said that some of what we do applies to some governments or some countries,
sure,
and some does not. But I'm interested to know the instances in the future of which ones do not and why you think they don't.
Cultural distinctions, that's the simple answer, but we can talk about it much more.
Fine.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else relative to this report?
I thought that the ancillary information, forgive me for using ancillary when it's used in the report, but I mean the articles provided by Newsday that came up after the meeting were very important.
That paragraph.
Yeah, there was Camille.
We suggested a new paragraph to be added regarding that latest article that came out.
And by the way,
Is that
Newsday.
included in our discussion of this annual report? You all got that, right?
Yes.
Actual language?
There was a paragraph that I
didn't
drafted.
see it. That doesn't mean that it wasn't there.
I did not see that. I'd like to.
Why not?
Was it sent as a separate document or in the body of an email? I also don't remember it. But
It was in the bottom.
Camille, do you have it? You can just read it if you want.
Do I have it?
I have it someplace. But in any case, I was on the phone with Newsday yesterday, actually, and I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to be doing something that focuses on, let's call it police conduct, during the course of, let's say, the remainder of this calendar year. And in fact, we sent to them, I don't know if you recall, but our intern did a fabulous study of the treatment of personnel records, particularly police officers' personnel records, through the website of the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. And aside from being scenically beautiful, it was really telling. And I sent that to Newsday yesterday. They were greatly appreciative, and they'll be able to point out that the treatment of those kinds of records by New York, in the scheme of things, is, let's say, unique. It is different. In the great majority of states, records about police officers, correction officers, and others are treated in exactly the same manner as the personnel records pertaining to other public employees.
I think one of the things that in thinking about this after the fact and later on, it's possible for an administration to become, I don't mean administration, I don't mean from the top, I mean a department. It's possible for an agency to become too comfortable with those that are managed. And one of the advantages of the Freedom of Information Act and the public records that we're talking about is that the light of having your actions in public is helpful, so that an agency doesn't become too comfortable with the department or with the staff that's managed, with the people that are managed. Mm-hmm. The other side of that is, or another way of looking at that also, is that an agency manages employees who have difficulties and employees that do not. And those that do not have particular administrative difficulties or problems or behavioral problems or decisions that are made against them, and others, not innuendo, but decisions, those who are if you'll pardon the expression, good employees, deserve to have their reputation verified. That in fact it may be anecdotal, it's individual, that the many deserve to be protected by having the punishments that are meted out to the few public. It's in the interest of all of the rest of the department or the agency to have things public, because that speaks to the integrity of the department.
I certainly agree with that, and having been in government now for almost 40 years, it's crystal clear that the great majority of public employees work hard, try to do their jobs as well as they can. But too often, what do we read about in your publication? It's the aberration. It's the aberration. It's the relatively rare situation in which something goes wrong. And realistically, that's simply the nature of news.
Right. You don't report that 30,000 people in Rome were not bitten by a dog.
That's
in the
right.
corner of
That's
Rome.
right. Or that there was no accidents on the thruway on your way home. And that's the reality of it. But I think that by disclosing something about, let's call it misconduct, wrongdoing, either statistically or by name, tells the world that all the others are really doing their jobs the way they should.
Yes.
I just got an email that Bill de Blasio has chosen Bill Bratton to be his next police commissioner. So that'll be an interesting development.
Yeah, your life in the city is going to be very interesting, I think. In fact, the back and forth, I think, between Albany and the city will be kind of interesting.
So last Monday, a Newsday reporter called to talk about 50A, and she had no idea that the committee was talking about 50A itself. She was calling because she's relatively new to New York, and she's been writing about Suffolk County Police and published an article about the current police chief who's under investigation by the FBI for a list of things, and had learned that previously he had not been considered for promotion due to a list of things. I don't want to go into it. So what I thought is that we could add another paragraph about this article that came out in Newsday. And so I'm sorry that you didn't receive a draft of the paragraph prior to this. It did go out on Monday, probably about 4 o'clock. But if you'll bear with me, I'll just read it. It's relatively short, and we'll go from there. Earlier this month, the article that this reporter wrote was in October, but she called on December 2nd.
So would you use a date or use a month
I was
rather
just going to
than...
say earlier this month.
Wow.
So here we go. Earlier this month, a reporter called the committee to ask why disciplinary records of a police officer who was recently appointed to police chief weren't required to be made public. She had obtained and published information that this officer had, quote, lost his service weapon on 2 occasions 20 years ago and is currently under investigation by the FBI for his involvement in a situation stemming from a similar act. Apparently, in response to her reporting, the police union has brought suit against the police department for failing to protect the officer's records, a legal cause of action which has previously been found to be non-existent.
Oh, we did get that. You're right. I just
Yeah,
didn't
we
realize
did.
that was going to be a paragraph in the report somehow. I remember reading it. But,
Great.
yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, it's in the body of the email. It wasn't an
yes.
attachment.
So the
Yeah.
suggestion from Bob and I is that it be included as after the third paragraph in Dave's version of the 50A topic.
That's fine with me. Before we leave, let's talk about our process for approving the final draft.
We have in that discussion of 50A reference to, again, a Newsday report involving a case where reporters were reporting about a failure of a police department to enforce an order of protection, among other things. So this would simply be another example that would be included in the report.
Rather than saying last month, again, you want something that'll stand up on the internet for ages. If you could put either an explicit month or also this year or
So the earlier this month was only a reference to the reporter calling the office.
then it doesn't have to be in there, does it?
Nope. Earlier this month.
Another
the reporter
case. In
called
another
to
case.
ask why. In
If
another case.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. And a related question, originally I think I had links to the articles that we reference in our annual report. At some point they got switched, or Dave's language seems to switch them to attached our copies. What do you want? You want live links? You want attached copies? Does it matter? We'll do it.
To the report itself? When
Live
it goes up
links.
online?
It's going online and it gets sent out.
I think
Live
links are better.
links.
Live links.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, realistically, we used to, back in the olden days, we had a mailing list and we mailed out copies of the reports.
Yeah.
Nobody does
We
that
don't do
anymore.
that anymore.
Yeah.
So it'll be posted online, and in fact, in so many ways, many of you may recall we had a brochure, a handout. We gave out thousands of them over the course of years. We don't have the resources to print anymore, but the online version is immensely more valuable because it includes links to a variety of additional material, and people find it to be, in so many ways, more useful than the printed brochure. No offense to news media people here, but you're going in the same direction.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we
so
on the same page?
Yeah,
Franklin?
Franklin, is your question after approval or before approval?
What, just next steps? What should we approve it subject to our comments today, and then look at a final draft? How did we do it last year? I can't remember, Bob.
I think that in consideration of our statutory deadline of December 15th, it seems that the modifications today are pretty clear, not substantive, more stylistic. That I would like to see the members simply say that there is no objection to the changes that were offered, and that the report should be going out on time in conjunction conjunction with the statutory requirement.
I would like to have it available to us early enough so if there happens to be an egregious blunder, we can correct it before the deadline.
That would be fine with me. Yeah, and today is December 4th. The deadline is December 15th. We'll be able to take care of that. Right, Wendy?
So if you don't hear anything,
Sure.
if you don't hear anything after you give us the draft,
Right, Wendy?
you go with it.
Right, Bob. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. Now,
What-
next step, Franklin. Or is that it?
No, my question was, how do we get from where we are today to a final draft? And we've addressed that.
Yeah, and typically, too, we transmit copies to the state legislature, but we do it after the first of the year because often there are changes in the membership here and there. And realistically, if we send something out in the third or fourth week of December, I don't think anybody is going to pay a great deal of attention to it. When they reconvene in January, there's a greater likelihood, particularly in the case of their staffs, that there may be some attention focused on it. And Camille and I are we attempt to develop relationships with the chairs of the legislative committees that deal with these issues. The Senate is always a mystery, but in the Assembly, at least so far, it'll be the Committee on Governmental Operations, Assemblyman Steve Engelbright, and we've been in contact many, many times in the past year with his office, and I'd like to think that they will be, let's say, receptive to what we're offering, as they have been in the past.
The question has come up, the last item on the agenda is committee chair. The question has come up about having a committee chair who runs the meetings.
Why?
If you'd like to have a committee chair, you're welcome to do so. I thought I'd raise it. In some ways, it can be helpful.
Why? How could it be helpful?
It's really up to you.
I mean, it's a genial group without any. It's attentive to all points of view. Its meetings are run smoothly. Why do you need something formal?
I think it could be a nice thing just to engage maybe other members of the committee by having a rotating chair. Maybe it's a different person each year. I think it could be a nice thing. I don't know that we necessarily would need to vote on it today, just because it's our last meeting of the year. Maybe we would want to do it at the first meeting.
Either that or you choose Dave Schultz because he's not here.
Yeah, there you go. Or we could have a conch shell that we could pass.
It seems to me that we shouldn't really elect a chair until their functions are defined.
Agreed.
I mean, we don't have any bylaws. What would they do? I mean,
Right.
So if we want to make bylaws, maybe we should start there.
Oh, God.
Didn't we have
Yes.
a chair?
We
Didn't
did,
we have a chair when I joined? We had one, but he never came.
yeah.
That's what happens. That's why we shouldn't
That's
have.
one of the first requirements for office to show up.
Yeah.
And then he switched jobs.
He got a new job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob Simmelcare.
Right. Yeah, I think having a chair is nice if there is a likelihood of continuity, but it's hard these days, especially to pin people down.
Vice chairs and vice chairs.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Next year is the 40th anniversary of FOIL. So that may be, we don't have a title for our annual report. What do you want to call it? So next year, I'm going to propose a title for our annual report based on 40 years. But what do you want to entitle the annual report?
39.
What did we call it last year?
39, again.
What did we call it last year?
Last year it was Open Data, Key to the Future.
Well, that's still a good one.
I don't want anything so saccharine that I hurl.
I mean, in some ways, we're building on we point out in the report that there's these really great open data developments, like Open Data New York. So maybe we want to say Open Data building on last year's achievements or something. I don't know.
Freedom of information in transition.
You know, in these international kinds of settings, the phrase that comes up often involves the development of a culture of openness. What about something like building a culture of openness?
Solidifying
a culture of openness.
I like that.
Solidifying openness because you're asking for legislative.
Solidifying.
That's good.
You're asking for something for legislative action on the part of the governor's proposals.
Yes.
I like it.
Copyright.
And here I was the cynical one.
So you're not going to.
That's pretty saccharine, but we can go with it.
Okay. Great. Well, then, I guess it's time to say happy holidays to everybody. And thank you all.
See you in the new year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Very good.